Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have had a wonderful day. And as per yesterday, it may have only been a few hours, minutes, or seconds since you last saw me, given the tight turnaround. Today, I have for you my Game Week 19 team selection, which was quite difficult and required me solving a lot of my own problems to arrive at the decisions I did, as well as solving your problems. A slightly shorter and condensed version, given the tight turnaround, but valuable stuff nonetheless, which I hope will help you out. For the regular viewers who have not subscribed, for the new viewers who have not subscribed, consider doing so, especially to cash in on some of the luck that we've had. And so many people in the comments section have had as well, who are doing magnificently well this season, multiple top 1Ks and even approaching top 500s now as well. Without anything else needing to be said, however, apart from the fact that if you like the video, make sure to drop a like on it. Let's hop into it. I may title this section Sanchez Supremacy regardless of what I think, in aim to speak into existence my preferred outcome. I'm not even sure if Robert Sanchez is going to start this week. Maresca expressed how he may make 1 or 2 or 3 changes, but it will definitely change something for the game against Ipswich, considering we've dropped 5 points out of our last 6. Now, me personally, when a goalkeeper has 3 good games in a row, considering he was a little bit wobbly prior to that, but then has 3 good games in a row, and you're on a little bit of a downturn, I don't really think it's the time to change that position in particular. I think you'd really be looking at the midfield when it comes to this Chelsea team, and we actually spoke about that yesterday on the Diamond Zoom call. But regardless, I'm not super confident that he starts. However, can I really justify a transfer here? Well, potentially, I could just move to Henderson and have him as my set and forget and not have to deal with this headache. But my thinking is, if he starts this game, he probably doesn't get rotated again. And that means I'll have saved myself a transfer, and I still like his prospects going forward. So for now, at least, I'm going to stick with him, and whatever comes on the 30th, well, it will be what it will be, and I'll reassess after that if I need to transfer him out. You may be surprised to see Robinson on my bench and Lewis Hall starting ahead of him, so let's touch on that first. I personally think, as of this moment, Bournemouth are a better team and a better attack than Manchester United. So I think Lewis Hall, therefore, has the better fixture. I also think that Newcastle are performing at a higher level than Fulham currently, and Newcastle really are flying. So that's the second thing. And if Marco Silva isn't to play the wing-back system, I would say the open play threat I have from Hall exceeds that of Robinson, specifically because, 1, he has set pieces, and 2, because there's also that open play goal threat, which Robinson lacks to some extent. Obviously, he had the chance against Chelsea, where he really should have scored, or at least taken it on his left foot the first time, but that was from the wing-back position. I'm honestly not so sure if he's going to start in that system, not him specifically, but if Fulham are going to play that system again. So with all that being said, I'm quite confident in starting Lewis Hall. I also quite like the fact that they're in such good form, and I'm betting on that form, and I'm betting on that momentum, especially considering Bruno Fernandes is out. And I'm pairing him with Alexander Isak, and I definitely can see them two returning as a combination, which they have done in the past. So yeah, I'm going for Lewis Hall in that spot. Then we move on to the 2 premiums, and for me, probably the 2 best defenders in the game, in Josko Gvardiol and Gabriel. I mean, you just look at the potential opportunities for Gvardiol to return in open play and even set pieces. For example, he hit the post against Everton, and in terms of the quantity, the volume, it's so much higher than other players, given what he's got the license to do and just given the overall quality. If there was ever a time for City to turn it around, I've read that Jamie Vardy is touch and go, so we're not too sure if he starts. And if he doesn't, then this is certainly one of the better chances for City to turn it around. Well, it is regardless, but specifically in terms of them keeping a clean sheet. And look, Gvardiol's got such high upside. He's a wonderful pick to have. And as you will know, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, I am all about maximizing upside and really pushing that ceiling as high up as we can go. And then Gabriel is just set and forget pretty much for the whole season. Best defender in the game, in my opinion. How he doesn't walk away with a 15-pointer against Ipswich is unknown to me, but I guess it's obvious because he just missed his chance a little bit. Usually you expect him to score that, but so be it. I'm sure it's working out somehow for the best. Of an interesting fixture, I would say normally this is not one fixture where you look and you think, oh, clean sheet. But considering the volume of injuries they have in the defensive department, I wonder if they set out slightly more defensively and it takes the pressure off Arsenal slightly. But I still expect them to be somewhat aggressive fashion that they play. And also Wissa, Sharda, and Mbeumo is quite a lot to deal with, especially when Brentford are at home. So not overly expecting of a clean sheet. Not really sure how this one's going to go, but it doesn't really matter because what else am I going to do anyway? The dilemmas keep on coming, and I've had another few here. 1, do I transfer out Jarrod Bowen? As you can see, I've chosen not to do that. Who do I start? Joao, Pedro, or Rodgers? As you can see, I've chosen Rodgers, and a few other things as well, because captaincy will also be between 2 of the 5 in this section. We'll start with Morgan Rodgers over Joao Pedro, as is standard practice when we get to the midfielders / forwards. And I've chosen to play Rodgers over Joao Pedro when they have the same fixture. One, I think the fact that it's at home is a plus for Rodgers. The big thing for me with relation to Joao Pedro at the moment is he's having to play 9. And even if when he's not, like for example, Jorginho Ruter's occupying those spaces, he doesn't have a 9 where you can just put the ball into him and then Brighton can work from there. And I think with the way that Brighton play, with the players that they have behind the 9, that's really what you need. And as such, I'm fairly happy benching him for this week. We'll come on to whether I think you should sell him or not down the line in solving your problems. Rodgers has been so good to me this season. And honestly, considering what Brentford showed against Brighton yesterday, like, you can hurt Brighton. He's probably just got to be a little bit clinical than Brentford were. Final pass, final action, be a little bit better. And the former Rodgers, obviously, blanks away at Newcastle. Well, that wasn't really his fault. Had so little to feed off. This is the type of game where I think Villa will have a little bit more of the ball, especially compared to what they did at Newcastle, at least in dangerous possession. And the opportunities to return will be significantly higher. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this prospect. And it's been so good to me this season. It's a pretty easy decision. Why is Jared Bowen staying? And why is he staying over Ismail Assar, who's looked really good, who I talked up yesterday, and has clearly got a good fixture in Southampton at home? One of the main reasons is I have one free transfer. And going into next week, especially because it's the last week before the break, it's not like I have to wait ages. Then I can use it in an aggressive manner. I want to have 2 free transfers next week because I wouldn't be surprised if I need to restructure slightly. And making one for Bowen now almost locks me into making a certain type of move next week. Whereas at least if I have 2, there are more combinations on offer to me. So for example, let's say I want to actually end up keeping Jackson, and I decide, all right, I'm fed up of Foden and Guardiola, I want to take them both out. Now I can do that as a double move. It's unlikely, but potentially a possibility, especially if I'm going to keep Bowen and City play West Ham next week. And I want to open myself up to that type of upside as opposed to attacking it this week. Okay, fine. Sar's got a good fixture, but as I expressed, I was impressed by Southampton. Okay, and there will definitely be some spread of output at Palace, and hopefully I can just get a little bit lucky with that. The other thing is, Bowen is somewhat fixture-proof, even in these type of games where I think Liverpool would be a tough game for their attack. I have a feeling they might get 3 at the back considering their injuries and suspensions, and thus transitioning on Liverpool I think will be a little bit harder. But he's just a type to definitely pop up with returns in these type of fixtures, and regardless of the fixture, he's always able to return. And we talk about selling him later on. And like I said, this is mainly a strategic play because I would like to have 2 frees for next week. But also, I have trust in him in the fact that he can return. And it serves as quite a nice differential. He gives me Embuemo vibes where people sold him and then he went on to Hall. Somewhat fixture-proof. And I'm considering Bowen to be in the same category. He's done so well for me so far, right? And also, he's on for his best ever FPL season as well, if you were to take the points and just extrapolate them the whole season, which is certainly interesting. I mean, the other 3, there's not really much to talk about, right? We'll obviously talk about Salah and Palmer when we get to the captain's section. I'm not doing anything with any of those 3. Definitely not selling them. Good fixtures for all of them. And I look forward to getting some points off them, which actually help my rank. So my process for making this video was to do all the graphics for the team selection, which are these, and then do the solving your problems one. However, just before I was about to film the video, I got this random thought, which I hadn't had so far for this team, to actually sell Nicholas Jackson for Jean-Philippe Mateta. And I'm going to play around with the idea tonight as well, because I saw Maresca discuss how he might make 1, 2, or 3 changes. Do I really want to take this expected minutes gamble? I could obviously just play Joao Pedro ahead of him if I really want to keep 2 frees and really think he's going to get benched. So there's a few routes there which I didn't consider until literally like 5-10 minutes ago that I'll give more thought to later down the line. But my instinct is that he shouldn't drop Nicholas Jackson because who else is really going to play at 9? Okay, Mark Gueye might, but he doesn't really get any minutes in the Premier League practically this season. So to take him into the starting 11 straight away, I feel like he should have a few more sub appearances and then give him a start if he thinks he's deserving of it. Nkunku's been poor at 9 and he had 20 minutes against Fulham and I don't think he really showcased enough to warrant a start next game. So I'm going to say that Jackson starts, but it's close and hence why I'm thinking about potentially selling him. And then Isak is similar to Foden, Salah, and Palmer in the sense that what else am I going to do? I'm just going to keep him there, and I expect him to do well because he's an unbelievable player in brilliant form and has a good fixture this week. So after further consultation with myself and others, I have decided to stick on the Cole Palmer captaincy. Now, as I expressed yesterday, there is nothing wrong with Mohamed Salah as a captaincy pick. There really cannot be, considering that, 1, his individual level this season has been like unlike something we've ever seen before. And 2, with the utmost respect for West Ham, and obviously I think they can do something, otherwise I would be captaining him. They're not, for example, Arsenal in their best defensive form ever, whereby it's pretty easy to say, okay, the opposition are going to cause such a problem, go elsewhere. It is largely strategic it is also a bit of a feel and a gut pick. It absolutely is that. I also think from a footballing standpoint, as I expressed yesterday, West Ham can cause them some problems, and they've got good momentum at the moment. They've been decent at home. Palmer, I think, has got the better fixture. I do think Maresca is going to change up, not just in terms of the personnel and the system. So that all supports my argument as well. But I'm not necessarily saying that Cole Palmer is out and out a better pick than Mohamed Salah. I think they're both very, very good. But for me, for the reasons I've discussed, and not just the footballing ones, I'm going to pick Cole Palmer. So I thought I would just show you that to show you that I've basically locked it in. We'll call it 99.9%, because anything can happen between now and the deadline, new variable, maybe I just have a shift in perspective. But I am going to be going with Cole Palmer. I can't imagine that's too popular in the comment section, but for those of you who do go there, I look forward to hopefully celebrating on the next transfer. We will start with a section which is becoming a bit of a staple piece in solving your problems, and that is benching dilemmas. And to be honest, this week we've probably got more than we maybe have ever had. First, we'll look at the defenders, and then we'll move on to the midfielders and forwards. As I expressed in my team selection, I think that Bournemouth are a better side than Man United currently, and I think they are a better attacking unit as well currently, especially with the press as well. So it's a good avenue to goals, even if it gives up something defensively. We don't really care about that too much because we're playing FPL, right? And we're specifically talking about Robinson here. So for me, whilst it's close, I've got Hall over Robinson starting. The interesting ones are where you have maybe 4 really good prospects in Hall, Robinson, and then like a double Arsenal defense, an Arsenal and Trent, a Guardiola and Arsenal, and then what do you do, right? So in the case where it's double Arsenal, honestly, I'd be spreading the risk a little bit, considering what Brentford have done at home, and I'd be dropping like Yuri and Timber to the bench. In the case of a Liverpool defender, it's really interesting. I think if you've got Bowen, you start Bowen over Trent. So if that means having a £7 million asset on the bench, which is a defender in the form of Trent, I would do it if I had Bowen in every single case. Obviously, if you're adamant that Liverpool are going to keep a clean sheet and think that Trent is such a brilliant option for this week, by all means, your team. Do as you please. But for me, personally, I'd start Bowen over him. Otherwise, in most cases, I think you can just play Trent and then drop one of the Arsenal defensive assets to spread the risk. And then if you have Hall/Robinson, Hall and Robinson, one Arsenal, one Trent, I would probably just bench Robinson as well. Now, moving on to the midfielders and forwards. For me, Ahmad has to go on the bench this week. I think Newcastle are in really good form. It's going to be a tough fixture. I don't have his ceiling particularly high this week. Okay, fine, 1 return. Yeah, for sure, possible. But 2 is obviously not impossible, but it is stretching it somewhat, and it's not, I would say, the most realistic or probable thing to happen. Discussed Bowen previously. I personally would play him in every spot. I think if you've got Jared Bowen, there's never really a fixture where you bench him. Obviously, there's a particular tactical matchup, and this isn't an easy one for him either. Definitely won't be. And if anything, you probably you can get Robertson, but still, it's not an easy one, especially if Liverpool manage to control the game like they did in the second half against Leicester. Then with a lower volume of transitions, it'll be difficult for him to get returns. You saw what Bournemouth did to them as well, where their transitions were poor, West Ham, and if that happens against Liverpool, won't be the easiest game for him to return. But nonetheless, given he's Bowen, I would play him. We'll touch on him later. And then it comes down to Rodgers versus Joao Pedro, really, because that's a lot of teams have that issue. I would again bench Joao Pedro for the reasons I discussed in team selection. Enzo and Semenyo is interesting. I think that Enzo might actually play a different role and go back to playing like a left centre mid role, because I think he might go back to the box, which has kind of worked for us this season. He's used it less against low blocks, but I think going back to that actually would be a decent idea for a few reasons. So I think you might see Enzo in a slightly more attacking role, if not dropped this game. So I'd probably start him over Semenyo, just because going away to Fulham's never going to be that easy. I know I spoke about what Bournemouth can do, but Fulham are obviously clearly a very good defence, so otherwise they wouldn't have put the performances they have this season, and they wouldn't be where they are in the league. Should you be selling Joao Pedro, and should you be selling Jared Bowen? Starting with the latter. I do think that this is more of a case-by-case decision, as opposed to the standard one where it's more objective. I will give you an example. I personally think right now that is more of an objective than subjective decision when it comes to Eze versus Sarr. I would say, for many of the reasons discussed yesterday, that Sarr is the better pick. And regardless of outcome, regardless of if Eze scores 50 goals tomorrow and Sarr gets sent off twice, I still think Sarr was the better pick, and that outcome won't have changed that, in my opinion, at least. But like I said, I do think this one. However, with Bowen, I don't think it's necessarily the objective versus subjective either. I think it's quite literally case by case, because your teams are all going to be so different. In some places, going for Sarr will be like, let's just say we're going to use that example, Bowen to Sarr, or even Bowen to Foden, whatever you prefer, right? Going there will be optimal for you because you're so bullish on Saar, you're so bullish on Foden, and you really dislike Bowen's fixture run, and you don't really see him returning. Okay, in that case, fine. In some cases, you have a lot of free transfers, you're happy to use it, and essentially, it's not inefficient to use one in your case. Some people will be the complete opposite. Some people will see Bowen being able to return in the next few games, see him as fixture proof, see the transfers being an inefficient usage, and then having a completely different viewpoint as such on what you should be doing. I would also say you must formulate an ideal plan of where you want your team to go and then look at the transfer plans around that. So I roughly know what I want to do with my team going into from now until game week 24. Just have a rough idea at least. And I'm trying to stick to that while still being adaptable. I would also have an idea for your team because without that, you're kind of just going in a direction and you're almost hoping to get lucky. So maybe this transfer out for Bowen is actually really going to harm you down the line. And you don't want that to be the case, right? So just take a little bit of time and plan. And to be honest, if you're probably watching this video, you care enough about FPL and your rank to do. And it's not a task, it's more enjoyable. Okay. And the last thing when it comes to Jarrod Bowen, I expressed this a few times in game week, in the build up to game week 14 when I was buying him. And my justification for that partially was the fact that he's Bowen. And I honestly think if you just say to someone, my justification for buying Bowen is that he's Bowen, and leave it at that and say nothing else, that's enough because that encapsulates everything that he is. He is such a good asset from a fundamental standpoint, and he's such a good player. He's so reliable. He's got so many avenues to points. He's on set pieces. He's on penalties when Paquetá is not on the pitch. And that's enough, right? And it's not like West Ham are a really bad football side. They have more than enough firepower and attack to pretty much hurt anyone. So for those reasons, I wouldn't say this is a sell or a buy, circumstantial, but it's not as hard of a sell as it's being made out to me just because of the fixtures, in my opinion. Now, that was Joao Pedro. Similar, I would say it's circumstantial, but less so. I am more on the side of keep. As I expressed on the side, if he is your only route into Isak, Watkins, Mateta, these type of players, right, with high upside this week and in the short term, and you are absolutely adamant that you want one of those, and this is your only route, by all means, go there, your team. And I see upside to it. But I put emphasis on adamant because I think you need a lot of conviction to make this type of move. You'll probably lose a lot of value by selling Joao Pedro. He's a wonderful facilitator for the rest of your squad. And similar to Bowen, he's Joao Pedro. He's the 90-minute man. Look at the substitutes Brighton made yesterday, but look who stays on the pitch. He's one of the leaders in the group. He's on penalty. He's a top player. Brighton are a good team. And their philosophy is definitely a little bit more attacking than it is defensive, right? And okay, fine. Fabian Hurster probably hasn't got it right as of late, and the players haven't been performing too well as of late. But he's a brilliant manager. He's got a lot of top players with him. I'm sure they'll turn it around at some point. And is it really worth it to lose Joao Pedro specifically? Can you not just lose your second striker? Or even, let's say that's Cunha and you don't want to sell him. Can you not just wait? Because he probably is banned by, I guess, around the 14th. Gets next game week, which is Forest at home. It's not that even that easy. Then from there, you could probably sell him. Yeah, I think you could. So for me, this is more of a keep. But if you're adamant and you want to capture a certain bit of upside, by all means, go and sell. For those of you considering acquiring a membership for our community, the perks on offer are showcased here. We've had a lot of pleasant and positive reviews so far. There's been a lot of analysis for myself, for all members. There's been a lot of discourse in the Platinum group chat, which again involves pretty much all members. And last night we had our Diamond Zoom call, which facilitated a lot of different discussion, tactical talk, individual reviews on teams, and a variety of other things, as well as just getting to know each other better. And it was definitely a positive experience considering everyone is from all around the globe. If you are interested, the link will be in the description. Any questions at all, just DM me. It's getting bigger and bigger every day, and it's been a very positive experience for myself as well, just being able to launch something like this and see people. If you would like to join, the link is in the description, and we would love to have you. As promised, my favorite Wildcard 19 draft, albeit in a slightly different fashion. You may be wondering, why am I showcasing a draft which is negative 0.4 in the budget, especially when my team value is high and resides at 104.7. A lot of you will have team values lower than that, so you'll be even further off this draft. Well, this is my ideal draft with a sense of realism attached, and if I had an extra 0.4, this is exactly what I would build if I was on Wildcard 19. It would have been easier for me to, I don't know, let's just say take out Hosco Guardiola, stick in Munoz, change Henderson, and everything would have been fine with the budget. But this is my ideal draft. I just cannot afford it whilst it's still in the realms of realism. As such, I think you should personally, if you trust me, which is completely up to you, take this draft and then find your own way to make it work within the budget. So, for example, if you don't really care about owning Oscar Guardiola, if you really want the upside of Munoz, get him instead of Guardiola, and then just take Henderson to pretty much whichever keeper you want, right? Because you'll pretty much be able to afford it. What is it like? Yeah, you'll be able to afford a lot of good keepers at least. Okay, you can make that. Maybe you don't care about owning Mateta and Sarr, and you only want one of them, and maybe you want Joao Pedro back. Okay, you make that move. Maybe you don't really care about owning Sarr and you really want Ahmad or Jacob Murphy. Okay, you make that move. Maybe you don't care about Ollie Watkins, so you get Nicholas Jackson instead, as an example, or Cunha because you want him for this short period and then you'll transfer him out after. So many things you could do here, just very simple, and you'll all have your preferences as well. So I thought I'd show a general structure, what my preferences are, my strong preferences, and then you can adjust for yourself there. And I thought that honestly that made a lot more sense. Moving on to the draft specifically, as opposed to looking from a macro level, I really like it, and I like it a lot more than I did Wildcard 18 for whatever reason. Maybe the slight fixture swing and the Palace fixtures, maybe the fact that I get Ollie Watkins as a differential for hopefully what it will be 90-90 for owners against Brighton at home and Leicester at home. Firepower and attack, and the fact that there's not really any expected minutes worries here. Yes, right, but even still, I think he plays like... Nketiah didn't even come on against Bournemouth, albeit they were in more of a defensive mode, but still, right? So, I like it a lot. Who would you bench? That is a real tough question. I'm going to take a second to think because I don't have a wrong answer. Weirdly, I'm going to say Ismail Assar because I don't want to double on Palace for this specific game in this specific scenario when I've got the double Villa, considering that this is, I guess, their audition. And like I said, I've been impressed with Southampton defensively in the last 2 games. In terms of defense, like, the idea here is that you're bullish on Guardiola. He has a really good next 4, and then you sell him on after that. You play him and Gabriel every week and rotate Hall and Robinson. The attack, you capture the upside of Watkins in the short term. Mateta and Isak are the long-term holds. You then take Watkins out after these 2 game weeks. Obviously, if he's firing and you want to keep, by all means, please do. But the fixture's a little bit tough with Everton away, Arsenal away. And then you can move him to whatever strikers in form. And yeah, the rest of the team's pretty solid. I think Palmer, Salah, Rodgers pick themselves. Foden, obviously, you'll know I'm expectant of him to do well, and this is such a good fixture. There's upside attached, and we move on to City in the next section. And then Ismail Assar, I spoke about a lot yesterday. So yeah, honestly, I really like it. And the sacrifices you'll need to make to essentially make the budget work, honestly, aren't even that big, especially if you do the Guardiola and Henderson one on the assumption you're not bullish on Guardiola. For those of you who watched the Arsenal versus Ipswich game yesterday, you would have seen a real lack of pressure put on Arsenal by Ipswich, especially in the earlier stages in the game. They grew into it a little bit more and took a little bit more of an aggressive route. But it was one of the more comfortable games that Arsenal will have this season. Yeah, I still wasn't particularly impressed by the attacking dynamics that Arsenal on show, nor the performance in general. And as I expressed, that will probably be one of the easiest. Brentford away, Brighton away, Tottenham at home. Villa at home to an extent, depending on what system they play. Probably all games are just slightly more transition-based. But I'm not sure Arsenal right now, with what they boast, necessarily are so well set to put those teams away and put them to the squad, whereby the assets that you'll buy, for example, a Jesus, or you punt on a Martinelli, you go to a Havertz for a variety of reasons, will necessarily be putting up the returns consistently, nor will they be reaching the ceilings of other players. And as such, for me, I just wouldn't be going here. If you have him right now, genuinely, I would be considering moving off. I think given Brentford's defensive injuries, okay, fine, you want to keep Jesus and Havertz for a game, or I guess even Odegaard and Martinelli, if you don't have anything else better to do and you don't see any other opportunities, then by all means, yeah, sure. But Parsi, for me, especially if you don't own them, I wouldn't be going near them, because not only do I think that they all, in their own rights, have low to medium floors and low to medium ceilings as well, but also there'll be a spread of output. I'm not sure that they're even going to be able to achieve those floors or ceilings consistently. The other thing is, I don't think Arteta's been as adaptable as, say, someone like Eddie Howe this season. So if they do struggle, I'm not sure they're necessarily going to get out of it super quick. And it shows how much of a factor and a big factor Bukayo Saka has been, not just this season, but in recent times as well. And in those more transition-based games as well, not having Saka on that right side and only Odegaard in the middle, especially considering he's not the most powerful of carriers, I wonder if they'll struggle just a little bit. And yeah, even against deeper blocks, I think they're still going to have some problems, especially when you take the creativity of Saka away. He's just, a top 3 right winger in the world. And when Arsenal don't really have any form of a replacement and maybe like a little bit of attacking depth in their front line, I don't think it's really the best thing for their assets. So personally, I'm staying away for a variety of reasons. But that begs the question, who do you go? And I wanted to talk about these two again a little bit, but specifically the Belgian. It is probably the best time they are going to get, or it appears to be so, for them to turn it around this season. Leicester away. Hermansen's not there, which is a huge deal. Hermansen has undoubtedly made Leicester look better than they actually are this season and has won them points. But without him there, there's a drop-off. There undoubtedly is a drop-off. You saw it against Wolves. You saw it to Liverpool to an extent, but nowhere near as much as you did with Wolves, right? But still, it's a big blow. And I just think if there was ever a game to take it, this is the one that City are going to do. And also, there's a lot of upside here, right? City could put 5 past Leicester, and I wouldn't really be too surprised. I think De Bruyne is going to start, especially considering he came off the bench against Everton and the fact that they drew. I think they'll play together. So if you wanted to go for an opportunity, I don't think De Bruyne is a bad one in the short term. Foden definitely longer term because he pretty much, I think, plays all the minutes now. But I was also open to the fact of going for both. I even toyed with the idea for a millisecond, or maybe 10 seconds, selling Palmer, even though I'm going to captain him to facilitate De Bruyne, or selling Salah, and then go and double down or triple down on City in my case. But it's just an idea I thought I'd pose to you because I do genuinely think there's upside to it. And as long as the route's okay, there's not that much risk. That is all she wrote for today and for Game Week 19's content, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, consider dropping a like on the video. It should be a really interesting game week because there are so many difficult spots and decisions to make this game week as opposed to last. That is for sure. I wish you the best of luck. I will be in the comments replying to as many as is possible, especially considering there's a later deadline than usual for those of you who aren't aware. City kick off at Leicester at 2:30. Like I said, I wish you all the best of luck. Have a brilliant few days, and I shall see you very shortly. Goodbye.